All right, so let's think about what the parts of an atom are. So in the center, we have positively charged components, and then we also have neutral components. And this whole center combined, we call the nucleus. So the center of atom is called a nucleus. And it's made up out of protons, which have a positive charge. And sometimes I'll write them just as P plus for protons. And then it's also made up out of neutrons, which don't have any charge. They're charge neutral. And sometimes I'll just give them the symbol of little n. And then flying around these this nucleus in what for now we'll call orbits are electrons, right? So I'll draw two there, and then maybe in another orbit, we've got some more. And so as you can see from my drawing, these electrons have negative charge, and I'll give them the symbol of an E minus for electron. Obviously, this is a very simplified model of the atom. As we go on through the course, we'll learn more and more complex versions. So let's take a look at some key components of this atom. The first of all is what's keeping this all together. So these electrons are flying past this nucleus at extremely high speeds. So why don't they just go away from the nucleus? And that's because of our rule that opposites attract. So our proton and neutron have positive and negative charge. They have electrical charge, and that's just a fundamental fact of the universe. And these positive and negative charges attract. So what's keeping these electrons from flying away is that they are attracted to the positively charged protons. Again, protons, which are positive, keep the electrons, which are negative, from flying away. Maybe if you're a little bit curious and you're thinking, well, wait a second, we've got a whole bunch of positive charge in the center. Shouldn't that repel itself because like charges repel? The answer is yes, it should, but basically there's another force that keeps them together that we'll go through later on when we go through nuclear chemistry. But anyways, there's our atom in the middle. We've got our protons and neutrons, and then on the outside, we've got electrons. And so we said that atoms make up pretty much all matter. And earlier we said that matter is something that has mass and takes up space, or we could say that it occupies a volume, right? So it's got a mass and a volume. So let's see where these characteristics come from. Let's take a look at mass first. So if we take a look at the mass of a proton, it weighs approximately 1 AMU, and an AMU is an atomic mass unit. It's a very tiny number. It's 1.67 times 10 to the negative 27 kilograms. So it's just a very, very tiny amount of mass. But overall, for a proton, that's good. It weighs approximately 1 AMU. A neutron also weighs approximately 1 AMU. And then an electron weighs way less than 1 AMU. So these double less than signs just mean way less than. And if you want a number, it's 0.00055 AMU. And so what we can see from this is that our protons and neutrons each weigh approximately 1 AMU. The electron weighs way less than 1. And so what we can say is that atoms get their mass from the nucleus. So in terms of an atom, pretty much all of the mass is found in the nucleus from the protons and the neutrons. Then the other component of matter is our volume. And for here, we've got an analogy. So if the atom were the size of a baseball field, baseball stadium, my bad, baseball stadium, the nucleus would be the size of a baseball. So you can see that even though the nucleus has all of the mass, it makes up a tiny portion of the volume. What makes up most of the volume of the atom is either A, empty space, what you can call empty space, or really it's where the electrons are at, right? So outside of the nucleus, we have our electrons zooming around, and they basically won't allow other electrons to get in here. So we can see, first of all, this is not size accurate, right? The nucleus is actually very tiny, and so it's not drawn to scale. So overall, when we're talking about the volume, the electrons essentially give the atom its volume, right? So the takeaway from this little video is, what's an atom? It's composed of a nucleus where we have protons and neutrons, and on the outside we have electrons. Protons are positive, electrons are negative, and they attract one another. Most of the matter comes from the protons and the neutron, while the most of the volume comes from the electrons.